I like what the minister said Sunday. Did everybody hear what he said? It was a great thing that he said. I probably changed it a little bit, but here's what he said. Don't forget who we are, but whose we are. Did you get that? If you have a connection with God, you are His child, and He will take care of you. Also, I want you to remember the control of God. We know that when Satan came to Job, he had to get permission. Right? So God was in control. I like what Shadrach, Meshach, and them said in verse 17 still, part B. Here's what they said. They say, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us. Do you know that He is able to deliver you for whatever you face? No matter what you face, the God is in you is bigger than whatever you face. Isn't that true? Remember that God is in control. He is able. I like this verse here, Romans chapter 8, verse 28. Boy, I tell you, I go to this one a lot. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. How many people go to this one? And we know, do you know? That all things work together for good to them that love God and to them who are called according to His purpose. God is working it out in your favor. And remember, He's working it out for your good and His glory. I'm telling you, man, we are going through some fires, and the fires are about to burst out. As we're praying for our nation, just look around. God is preparing us to be ready. He doesn't want us to be ignorant of Satan's devices. We must be prepared to commit the fire unto Him. And then also, remember your commitment to God. You know, like I told you in Daniel chapter 1, verse 8 to 21, these Hebrew boys committed their life unto Christ. Even so much, they changed their diet and everything that they did. They committed to God. They remembered their commitment to God. They stood in the day of testing. When the fire comes to your life and mine, it will often be accompanied by the temptation to quit on God. But God will never quit on us. Take a look at these verses here. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15. We're remembering our commitment to God. It says, for we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Hebrews 2:18. Hebrews 2:18. For in that He Himself has suffered, being tempted, He is able to secure them that are tempted. We can go to Him because we know He's been there and done that. And that He's overcame everything, yet without sin. and he did not quit. I like what Hebrews 12, 1-3 says. I'll paraphrase it. He says, for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, despising the shame. Whenever we're in the fire and we have committed our lives unto him, we can have that hope and that joy for the joy that's before us, knowing that he is with us. So we must commit the fire unto the Lord. Now, the last part here was roll. Conquer the fire by going through the fire. Psalms 23, verse 4. I quote that one so much. Psalm 23 is my life verse or life chapter. I actually know that one by heart. Psalms 23, verse 4. Listen to this. Oh my. It says, yea, though I walk through. He didn't divert you. He said, I'm going to show you my power by taking you through. Don't you know that you must go through the fire? He says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Whenever you're going through the fire of life, what comforts you? No doubt many of us are going through fires, been in fires. What comforted you? I'm going to give you a few things here where you can roll with the fire. Number one, we overcome the fire by the presence of God. Remember that when you face the fires of life, you never face them alone. Hebrews 13, verse 5. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. We overcome the fire by the presence of God. Listen to this. It says, let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such thing as ye have, for he hath said, listen to this, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Good Lord Almighty. Now listen to this one. I want you to write this one down. Isaiah 43, verse 2. Isaiah 43, verse 2. Are we there? Oh man, God, this is one powerful verse here. Listen to this. When thou passeth through. He's not going to divert you around it. When thou passeth through the waters, what did he say? I will be with thee. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon you. You overcome the fire by the presence of God. The next one is you overcome by the preservation of God. Remember that God did not save you to lose you to a fiery trial. He will meet you in the blaze, and He will strengthen you in the day of trouble. Remember, it did not come to stay. It just came to pass. Take a look at 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17. Wow. This reminds us of the things that we face and put them in perspective to eternity. God, preservation. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17. It says, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." Wow. So what we're going through is light. You might not think so, but compared to eternity and the glory of God, it's light. So we're talking about rolling with the fire. The next thing is we overcome by the power of God. Remember that these guys were in the fire. The furnace was heated how many times? 7 times hotter than it was. That's an important number. I want you to take a look at Psalms chapter 12, verse 6. Now, I'll tell you why that's important. Well, the Lord will tell you here. Psalms chapter 12, verse 6. Somebody just told us that the furnace was heated 7 times hotter. God's words in Psalms 12, verse 6 says this: "The words of the Lord are pure words, as silver tried in a furnace of earth, purified." How many times? 7 times. Old Nebuchadnezzar thought he was doing something special, heating it up 7 times. The Lord already knew that. And then he threw these men into the fire. And the men that threw them into the fire, they died. They got smoted. That means killed. Now, one thing I want you to see is that they went into the fire bound. But then they were loose. The only thing that burned up in the fire was the thing that had them bound. So what is holding you up? What is binding you? If you're in the fire, it will be burnt off. And then as Nebuchadnezzar looked in, and he see the men freely walking in the fire. So when you're in the fire, you are going to be walking in the fire. I don't know about you, but that's some good stuff. No matter what we're going through, the toughest trials of our life, when we've committed them unto God, and we're going through as a soldier of Christ, He will burn up those things that hinder us. Remember, whenever we're in the fire, it is to burn off those things that are no good. So we're talking about the power of God. Next, we're overcome by the program of God. I want you to get this one. It is noticed that God had a higher agenda in allowing these men to go through the fire. He did it to bring glory unto Himself and to speak to the hearts of the heathens. God brought His children through to prove that He is God, and beside Him there is no other. Remember, the reason that they were in the fire, they were already committed to God. But the people that saw them in the fire, even Nebuchadnezzar, said,